Alright everybody, welcome back, and I'm going to start by making a guilty confession, is that I'm addicted to Path of Exile when the leagues drop, and I disappeared to play Path of Exile quite a bit because I'm in love with it, and I also played a bunch of Diablo 4, and right now we have like Diablo style stats, more like where it kind of just generates random in one list, right? We just have stat effects right here, but truthfully, I think Path of Exile's stat effect system is way cooler, and it allows crafting for gear on items to be more interesting. So I spent some time in this episode. I didn't really plan to do this, but I want to change our equipment to Path of Exile, where you have implicits on items based off a base item. And then you'll also have prefixes and suffixes, and you can modify how many prefixes and suffixes. Default to be 3 of each, right? And then we'll have individual options for what is in a prefix and what is in a suffix, so that you can obviously contain the two. And then from there, it's going to expand what our crafting and everything can be. So that's what we're gonna do. So the first thing I want to do is, in this equipment effect package, we're going to do a single F equipment stat effect group, and this will be the implicit, and we'll do F equipment stat effect group, U property, blueprint, read only, and then we have one array called stat effects, but what we're going to do is rename this to prefixes, and just like this, and we'll copy this, paste this, and we'll call this suffixes, right? And then we are going to make 2 and 32s. The first one is going to be max num prefixes, and we'll set it equal to 3. We'll do U property, blueprint, read only, and int 32 max num suffixes. Set that equal to 3 as well. Give it a U property, blueprint, read only. Alright, and that's going to break a bunch of stuff. So we're going to come through here and fix all the different stat effects that it broke, and we're going to have to be a lot more verbose. But what I want to do is come back in here to the enemy base, actually, and we're going to look at this where we do the all loot tags. I want to start by doing one thing. It's a little redundant to take the specific loot tags. We know we're going to add exactly these loot tags, and this is a gameplay tag container. So if we take this out, we could just say all loot tags dot append tags the specific loot tags, and that'll do the same thing, right? We have this loop, this basic thing here. The thing is, I want to do this over and over and over again. So we're going to make this a static function. Instead of getting the tags manager every time and then writing this loop and then doing all this here, I want to be able to just one line this in an abstraction. I just want to be able to one line append tags, get all the children. Here you go. So we're going to come to the ability system library, and we're going to say static F gameplay tag container return, and this will say get all children tags of categories, and it'll take a const F gameplay tag container by reference, called category tags, and you can mark this as a U function, blueprint, callable. We could just go like this, and we'll make a definition. That's fine. And then we're gonna start by making a new F gameplay tag container, and this will be all children tags, right? And then we just want to do the loop. We could say for const F gameplay tag, and this will be category tag, looping through the category tags that we're passing in. We can take the all children tags, and we can append tags, and we're actually, we need the const U gameplay tags manager reference tags manager U gameplay tags manager get excuse me. So now we do that. We can take the tags manager and then request gameplay tag children of the category tag. And then we can return all children tags like this. So if I get all children tags of categories and I just pass in all the category tags, what I can do is I can get rid of this, and I can get rid of this, and we can just two-line this, where I could say all loot tags, append tags of URPG ability systems library, get all children tags of the category loots category tags. Alright, so now that we have that simplified, what we're going to do is come back to the equipment definition. And in the equipment definition, we still have the min possible stats, the max possible stats, but the possible stat roles that we have here is just one gameplay tag container. And now we know that's going to be wrong, because we want, similar to the enemy base, we want a category tags and we want a specific tags, so that we can do kind of the same exact concept that we're doing with this RNG spawn for the prefixes and the suffixes. So what we can do is we are going to come up top and make a use struct, and this is going to be f possible equipment stats, and we need one f gameplay tag that's going to be implicit tag, because we want to define an implicit on all items as one set implicit. So we just do one tag. And we'll set that equal to f gameplay tag empty tag, right? Because we're cool now. We're going to use empty tag. Now I'll give this a u property, make it edit defaults only, and we'll make this blueprint type just in case we need to read it later. And then we'll make a bunch of gameplay tag containers. We'll make f gameplay tag container. This will be the prefix category tags, and we'll set that equal to, look, f gameplay tag container also has empty container, so we'll be cool and use that too. Do this and edit defaults only, and we'll actually just copy this because we need prefix category tags, and then we need specific prefix tags, and then we need suffix category tags, and then we need specific suffix tags. So we need all of these, and this is f possible equipment stats. So what we're going to do is make this possible stat rolls is an f possible equipment stats instead. Now this is possible stat rolls that we can do, and we have all of this stuff here. So we're going to start here after the ability. We're going to start with the implicit. So we're going to come here and we're going to say if the equipment CDO has the possible stat rolls that now has the implicit tag, we say if that's valid. So not everything has to have an implicit, but if you do have a tag there that is valid, then essentially we just need to do this here where we get the possible stat and then grant it and then roll it and then just package it into the implicit. So we are going to take, we're going to say for const auto reference, pair looping through these stat effects, master stat map, and then we're just going to take if the equipment CDO possible stat rolls dot implicit tag dot matches tag pair dot key, and we need to say the if const f equipment stat effect root pointer valid stat. I'll take that by saying this is the URPG abilities system library get data table row by tag of an f equipment stat effect group, and we'll scroll over here, and the table is the pair.value, and we're looking for the implicit tag. So we want the we'll come down to the next line. We'll say the equipment CDO the possible stat rolls dot implicit tag. That's the one we're looking for. And then, so if we can do that, then we want to do this here. So we want to make an F equipment stat effect group that we call new stat. Set that equal to a dereferenced valid stat to start with, and then we'll take the new stat dot current value, and I can copy this, right? Well, this all says possible stat, so I don't know about you, but I can, let's quick replace this. So possible stat is no good, but if I highlight all that and hit H, I do possible stat, and then I just replace that with valid stat instead. All 5 instances, I just replace that. Now everything says valid stat and it's ready to go. So that is the role, and then all I have to do is take the, we're in the entry, has the effect package, which now has the implicit in it. We'll set that equal to the new stat, and that'll be it. And so now we have the implicit handled. Now the next thing we need to do is handle, how do we get prefix or suffix in, you know, kind of not ugly. Well, we're not going to do this possible stats container like this. We're going to push this down a little bit. We're going to start here, and we're going to say F gameplay tag container, and this is all possible prefixes. And then we're going to do all possible prefixes dot append tags URPG ability system libraries, get all children of that, and then the equipment CDO has the possible stat rolls that has the prefix category tags, right? So we're going to get all those category tags, and then we'll take the all possible prefixes and we'll append the equipment CDO has the possible stat rolls that has the specific prefix tags that we're going to add onto that. And we're going to do the exact same thing, but with these suffixes. So if you want, I can copy this, and I can paste it, and I can highlight everything, and we can do the same thing. We can take anything that says prefix and then just change it to suffix instead, and then all 5 of those get swapped, and now everything is fine, all possible suffixes and everything. Now that we have this, I want to be able to run this loop, and I want to be able to run it in just a couple lines that says, hey, I want to toggle between prefix, suffix, and we can use the quick enumerator to be able to say prefix or suffix, and then we have the different containers, so we'll want to just change the individual containers. And we want to make sure, because we're removing the tags, that everything's the unique stats that we're rolling. We're going to want to do the container by non-const reference, so we can change it as we go. So let's start by, at the top of the equipment types, we can make a enum, and we'll call it equipment stat group. And we'll call this ESG. We need an ESG none. ESG none, and then we'll say prefix and suffix. And now we have just this equipment stat group real quick. We can come into the inventory components, and in the inventory list itself, we have roll for stats, but we are going to make a function specifically say roll prefix or suffix. And we're going to want to start with an E equipment stat group that we'll call stat group. And then we're going to want the U equipment stat effects pointer called stat effects. We're going to want the F RPG inventory entry pointer that we'll call entry. And then the last thing we want is that container, right? We want that F gameplay tag container by non-const reference that we can call possible stat container. We just go like that. And if we roll for a prefix or suffix and just toggle this, we can generate a definition. That's got this. And then we're right underneath roll for stats. We're just going to cut. We'll start here. I'm going to cut this and just leave the while loop. Paste this here and see what's coming on. So we don't want the stat roll index inside here anymore. So we'll figure out where to do the stat roll index itself later. And then now we have the stat effects here, but we need to differentiate between prefix and suffix. So right here we're adding it to it. What we could do is say switch, and then this is the stat group. Right? So we're going to do case prefix. And in case prefix, then we'll take the entry, which has the effect package, and we'll say prefixes, add new stat. Oops, new stat. Right, and then, then we want a break. And then we can case suffix. And the entry has the effect package, which has the suffixes, add new stat, break. And then we could just default. That just does nothing. We go like that, and then we'll get rid of this. So now we're going to differentiate based off what we pass in through, if it's going into the prefixes or the suffixes bucket. So if I have role prefix and suffix, what I could do is I could say if math has, if you want to do a pure 50-50 chance, you, instead of doing like the math of rolling a number and saying less than 50, rolling 100, you could just say rand bool, and then you'll just get a 50-50 on true or false. So what we could say is if rand bool, so if true, and we have the entry, we're looking through the effect package, has the prefixes, we want the number of those, we need to make sure that they are less than the entry, and make sure that they are less than the entry, effect package, max num prefixes. So if that, we'll hide this here. So if that's the case, this just rolled 50% true, and the prefixes that exist in there is less than the maximum. Now what I could say is roll for prefix or suffix, and we're going to roll for a prefix. We're going to pass through the stat effects, the entry, and the tag we're going to mess with is the all possible prefixes. And then we could say else if this means that the random bool turned out false or the prefixes are maxed out. We're going to check that the entry has the effect package dot suffixes dot num is less than the entry dot effect package dot max num suffixes. So now this is false, and the prefixes is maxed out. So let's check the suffixes. If there's less than the maximum of those, then we can roll for, prefix or suffix. We're going to roll a suffix. We're going to pass through stat effects, the entry, and then the all possible suffixes of the container. Now, there's going to be one more else if statement. That's up to you if you want to do else if or not, but there's going to be one more else statement, and that is the case that if this returns false and then the suffixes is maxed out, then we know that we need to get back and check the prefixes again. So I'm going to say if entry effect package dot prefixes dot num is less than the entry effect package dot max num prefixes, we're just going to check it again, and we're going to roll prefix or suffix for a prefix, stat effects, entry, and all possible prefixes. And then that'll cover all scenarios, so you're always going to roll one prefix or suffix, and then we'll say plus stat roll index. We can do that right there. Okay, that'll take care of rolling for the stats. So let's come find the next errors. I got some red lines down here. So let's come down here. I got some red lines. This is get entries by string. Okay, so this is the inventory search bar. So we have the entry as a const reference entry right here. It's got the effect package. So we're going to start with the implicit. We're just going to be a lot more verbose. We just have to say if entry dot effect package dot implicit dot stat effect tag dot is valid. So we're going to make sure this has a implicit stat effect tag. Then we could just, and we can essentially say if the entry effect package dot implicit dot stat effect name dot to string that contains string. Yeah, we could just do this. copy like this. And then we can leave this here, and the effect package we could just say, because it was called that, we could just say prefixes. And then we're gonna do this, copy this, paste it, because stat effect is local to this. You could just keep it the same here, and then you could just say suffixes like that. All right, now we got everything sorted here. We're done in the inventory component. We're out of errors, we got everything bumped up. But we're gonna still use this, the fact that we have to do the implicit and then double loop for the prefixes and the suffixes. We're gonna have to do that again in the ability system component, because we'll start here. The add equipment effects has the effect package with the stat effects, but now we know we have the implicit, prefixes, and suffixes. So we need to handle all three situations. So we can say const f equipment stat effect group. This we could say implicit stat, and we can set that equal to we have the equipment entry as the effect package implicit. And I want to do that because I want to say if implicit stat dot the stat effect tag dot is valid, we need to do this whole thing if all the way down to here. So we're going to copy this and paste that. So stat effect is red all over the place here. So what we're going to do is highlight, we're going to highlight this all, and we're going to use the same Control H, and we're going to say stat effect, and that is going to get changed to implicit stat, just like that. But we're gonna do one at a time. We'll say replace this stat effect here is not going to implicit that, so we'll exclude this red one, replace all the red ones. That one's exclude, replace. So implicit stats handled there. And then we can just get rid of this because we're not in a loop here, so we have to do that. All right, so that is the implicit stat that we're going to handle there. And then we can just take this and say prefixes and copy. Where is the loop is ending here. If you want, you could, there could be a way to rewrite this into a function that takes this, but I don't have any more than twice that this is happening, so it's up to you, I guess. If you want to refactor this into a function, this doesn't bother me having it sitting here like this. Anyway, so now we have to remove the equipment effects. Well, the great news is all the active effects, this still, the granted handles gets the effect handles from all suffixes, prefixes, and the implicit. So in the remove equipment effects, this granted handles iterator will handle removing everything regardless of what it is. So we don't have to split it there when we're removing it, but naturally we have to split it on the effect package inside the other one. So we'll make a const f equipment stat effect group implicit stat. We'll take the equipment entry effect package implicit and f implicit stat dot stat effect tag dot is valid. Same. Stat effect to implicit stat, replace, exclude, replace, and then get rid of this. Because remember, we're only checking for the ability tags. And then we can say, instead of stat effects, we can say prefixes and suffixes. The ability system component, there's one more thing because we have the inventory. Let's see, the inventory component has the inventory entry only has the effect package, but it's checking the item ID, so we don't have that. But the equipment, we'll come into the manager component.h, here we go. It has the effect package, and the has stats reads that the stat effects is empty. We just have to split that. We have to say prefix is empty, and then we'll just say or. And then, suffixes is empty. We'll go like that. Now we define this. We need to come into the equipment manager component CPP and check, and I've got one error, so we're going to come down to here, and this is where we have a loop for the stat effects again, where we check for ability levels. Okay, so this is just one of those. We need to check for the implicit, so we say if current entry dot effect package dot implicit dot stat effect tag dot is valid. There we go, and then we can say we could just say it const f gameplay or const f equipment stat effect group implicit stat, and I've set that equal to the this, and then we'll say implicit stat and implicit stat, like that. So that'll check ability levels and run that, and then we just come here and we say prefixes, and then we can say copy for suffixes. And now that we have the equipment manager component, I think that's the rest of it. I think that's everything. Let's see if I remembered. Let's build. Build succeeded. Here we go. And so that means we're going to fire up the editor and get back in the editor. Okay, now that we're back in the editor, the big one we're going to have to worry about is this widgets, this tooltip equipment entry, right? Because right now I only have a single stat effect container. And I have the ability right here. So we're going to start doing this real quick. Spacers are going to go from 25 down to 10. And then I'm going to copy this stat effect container and paste it in here. And this will be called implicit container. And then this one will be called prefix container. And then I need one more, and this will be suffix container. Just like this. And I want text in all of these, just the implicit container. So this text, before I do anything else, do 14 and center it up and leave it like this. And then I'll say implicit and change it like this. And the default is going to be hidden. Oh, I'll break that, excuse me. And then we're going to copy that and put one inside the prefix container. And this will be prefix. And I'll say prefixes. And then suffixes. We'll go like that. And everything should be hidden still. Yes, we're going to leave it like that. And then actually we need to make all of these editable because we need to be able to toggle the visibility to it. We name this implicit text. Prefixes text. Suffixes text. Like that. And come into the graph. Now, make effect rows. Here's the whole thing. Look at this. Now we have implicit prefixes, stat effects is no longer good. You drop it down. I have prefixes, suffixes in the implicit. So we're going to break this up like this. I think we can do all of this function the same. We just need this container to be variable. And then we need this effect array to be variable. So let's highlight all of this. We'll hang on to the make ability row. We'll go like this. And go like this. So then we have all of that highlighted. And we can collapse this to a function. Boop. And so we'll say this array is called the stat effects. And then this widget will be the container widget. Okay, so now we have this new function, and this will be create rows. We'll just call it create rows. Now we'll go like this. Okay, now we have the local stat effects and the implicit container, but local stat effects probably should get renamed. Let's from local stat say local. We need an array, so we can say local prefixes, and we could do prefixes here like this. And then we'll just drag this out. We'll drag this back so we can do that. Local prefixes, promote this to a local variable, and this is local implicit. And that's the local suffix. Local suffixes. So now that we have a local copy of all of these, we can say if the local prefixes is not empty, we can take the local prefixes and put them into the prefix container like this. Go like that. And then on both the true and false, we can get rid of the make ability row for a second. We'll just put that down here. But both on the true and false, we need to and in the true case, now that we know we have some inside the prefix container, we can take the prefixes text and we could set visibility to visible. And then regardless of the true or false case, we're going to come off this and we're going to say create rows. Create rows. We should ask the local, we already have prefixes, so we can say local suffixes is not empty. Here we go. Create a branch and just do the same thing. It's not empty. And we need to do that in the true and the false case here because we want to check there no matter what. Local suffixes, this is create wall. And we'll do local suffixes is the stat effects, and then the suffix container is the container widget. And then we'll take the suffix text and set visibility to visible like this, and then we can take the local implicit and we can break this and say is valid gameplay tag valid, so we can just check the gameplay tag, see if it's a valid tag. Not do n, and then boop, and then we in the true and the false case we need to come do this. And true and false case, we need to create rows like this. And then I know we only have one, so all we have to do is come drag off stat effects. We can say make array. We only have one, but we can take the local implicit and make an array out of that one and just leave it like that. And then take the implicit container, hook it up here, and take the implicit text and set visibility. And set that to we have the implicit. Okay, so we have prefix, suffix, and implicit is done. Then we have make ability row, which if we just check in real quick, it already checks if that gameplay tag is valid. So we could just leave it like that, but we do need to just hook it up to the true or false case. Then it'll run make ability row as well. So now we're going to make all of the effect rows based off of all of that. Now that we have make effect rows there, let's check create rows because we collapsed it to a function and we've got a bunch of errors. So let's just create a local variable, local selected stat. We can right click local variable, local effect row, And that's all done. So then if I hit compile, now I have local variables of those, which actually means if I come back here, I should also have this local effect row. I can delete that, and the local selected stat, I can actually delete that because we're not even using those anymore. We're using them up in here. And that should be it from the equipment entry. So the next thing we need to do is come into the equipment, into the definitions, and we'll start in the mace. We'll do the broken mace. And now we have possible stat rolls right here in the stats. We have the implicit tag, and we'll start. Look, we got all these stat effects, and with all of them broken up like this, we just have fun like this. The implicit on the mace will be ranks of fireball, right? And then we could say the prefix category tags will have all of the low tier stats, and then specifically on this one we can do mid-tier movement and high-tier movement, so we can see if we get a good movement speed, any of those basic ones. And then the suffix, why not we do no suffix categories, we'll do low tier, again all of those, and then we can just have mid-tier crit chance and mid-tier shield up. We can have all of those. You know, we could get crazy. We could also do, why don't we do high tier too? Just in case we do all the high tier ones too. Why not? Okay, so now that we've done that, let's come back into the player. Is it the player controller that we have giving the inventory, right? And we have the equipment items. I just want to break this off, and we could just, I want to, instead of awarding all the different ones, I'll just say mace, because I just want one tag. I want to award just the item, equipment, right hand mace, broken mace. I only want to award myself maces because I want to see all the different types of rolls now that we have implicits and all the rest of the stuff. So we should only have these. So let's hit go. And well, we're gonna open up this client and we'll hit one broken mace, and we're just a bunch of broken maces. So here we go. I got movement speed, shield, 20% movement speed, so that's the medium, and then implicit is fireball skill ranks, and then small suffix on the movement speed, fireball ranks, just the fireball ranks. Now we have all that, we can drag and drop in the world, and we still get to see all of this on the server, and then make sure we highlight it, and we get to see all of this right here on this. So that's how we're going to start with the Path of Exile stats, and then I want to do this because it'll leave us open for more crafting opportunities and more fun we could do with these stuff.